usually that's the same mean. Just hearing the records, reading the lyrics, I was like, whoa, these guys are saying what I'm thinking. I'm pissed off anybody who put it in front of rap, rock, punk, metal, whatever. Crazy shit going on.
Standing back as we slowly decay. We're born only to fade away. We got no future, we got no hope. Our life is pain and it's hard to cope. We're born just to start dying. Do what we like, looking defiant. The odds of a generation gone insane. We're still alive, feel our pain.
And we're back. No, I'm with some I'm back. Episodes the season 2025 season of Roll the Bones with somebody I am completely honored to have here. He is part of the guitarist for Connecticut's probably one of the biggest hardcore bands in the state, Death Threat, and has the best tattoo shop in the state, Burning Hearts Tattoo in Hamden, Wes Fortier. I'm happy to have you here, man.
Thanks, Chris. I'm excited to do it.
So you grew up in Connecticut?
I did, yeah. When I was a kid, I lived in Meriden for a little bit. I vaguely remember it. I was like 5. We moved to Florida for a little bit, for like 2 years, and then back to Hamden. I've been in Hamden ever since.
Sick.
All around Hamden. Like I lived in a bunch of different places, but until I got married and stuff. But now I'm been in the same place for a while, I guess.
Since you're were you you're in every type of form of art? What came first, the music or just drawing?
Art? So when I was a kid, I used to wake up at 5 a.m. They would have, I don't know what it was called, but there was this show on TV that they teach you how to draw birds or different animals, stuff like that. And I would wake up, I would watch that. I would watch Bob Ross. I was even my first best friend when I was a kid. I remember sitting at his kitchen table and drawing with him. And the crazy thing was I never really got into art class in school. Mm-hmm. I didn't want to make ashtrays. I didn't, it wasn't for me. But recreationally, I did it a lot. As a teenager, I was doing graffiti with my friends and I was always design. As I got older, designing band T-shirts and flyers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Not just for my stuff, but other people that I was working with that were putting on shows, and I was helping out with that. So
sick.
I've always been drawn towards it. I did screen printing for a long time. But yeah, it's always been one thing or the other, or multiple things at once, but I've always had a hand in it,
At what age did you start with the music?
So when I was 12, my parents bought me a guitar. They bought me a Les Paul knockoff. And back then there was a store right near, I started playing in middle school, but I was kind of learning what I could by ear, I guess. And I was probably playing most of it wrong, but, between middle school and high school, there was a store in Hamden called Music Box in the Hamden Plaza, and they sold all the guitar tab books. Mm-hmm. So, I would buy a Metallica book or a Nirvana book or whatever they had. And then my friend would have the Green Day book, and then we would, learn the songs and trade them off. And there's a bunch of us that had them. But that was the easiest way for me. I took, I guess, traditional like guitar lessons for like 6 months, but that was a couple years into me playing.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I probably did it for like 6 months or so, but I was, I didn't really like want to learn how to solo and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I just like, I think at that point I was gravitating more towards like hardcore and punk, and I just wanted to play power chords and make heavy music. So, yeah, I did that for a couple months, but it wasn't really for me. At least maybe it was just the guy that I was getting the lessons from.
Mm-hmm.
We weren't really on the same page, but yeah, I don't know. I tried it out, and I just kept learning songs that I liked, and I started the first band that I was in. We started in ninth grade. Played like a talent show at the end of the year at the high school, and like did a couple shows over the summer that year. We did like Toad's Place, the Tune In.
Sick.
There's a couple hall shows, stuff like that, and I was 14 then.
What would like before you got into Death Threat? I remember you saying, I think you said you were more into like the bands you were in were more punk before like than hardcore.
No, it was a little bit more metal. The first band that I was in, we would play like Ozzy covers, Quiet Riot. I mean, we had our own songs too. Like we had demo, we had like a full length CD and stuff. But we were playing like old metal songs, like jamming on that, that kind of Judas Priest, stuff like that. And we were all like, we were the 4 or 5 of us at one point were into, heavy, like, I guess metal and a little bit of hardcore and punk and stuff like that. But like, we all had like very different favorites,
Mm-hmm.
So that was cool because, we would play a whole bunch of different stuff. Like when we got, we were kids, we didn't have jobs yet. We're doing anything like that. So when we got together to jam, my boy Nick, we would go to his house and stay up till like 3 a.m. jam. And his parents were like totally cool with it. They went upstairs. He had a little room in the basement. The neighbors never complained. So we would go down there and we would play from the time we got there, it's 5, 6 o'clock at night until like 3 a.m, just running through cover songs and writing songs and doing stuff like that.
Sick. I tried playing guitar when I was younger, and I should have stuck with it. Like I was getting all right with it, and then I was like when I was in high school, like a lot of people, I went out and bought a BC Rich Warlock.
Yeah.
Just because of Mick Thompson.
Yeah.
So like, but that's what I was practicing on. I should have stuck with it. A lot of my friends were doing shit. Like there was a buddy of mine, Ryan Pearson, that was in this band Ashley with an I. And I'm not sure if he's still playing today. I know he moved down south, but another kid, Dave Otto, I know he went on. I forgot the name of his band, but he's not with them anymore. But while he was in there, their band got a single on one of the radio stations in Grand Theft Auto 5.
Oh, that's sick.
Like, and they played some. They were more like, but they weren't like metal or whatever. It was more like folk music kind of.
Yeah,
but it's still sick. But
yeah, it's huge.
What
Immortalized Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah, just on one of like like they have like the radio playlist, like whatever tunes up. I couldn't even identify the song. Sorry, Dave. Like, but what were some of your gateway bands?
That I listened to?
Yeah.
So this is when we had our first band. Like I said, we were playing rock stuff. We had our own songs and playing like Quiet Riot and Ozzy covers and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But there was really, we played the Tune In a lot, which was a club on Center Street in New Haven. Mm-hmm. And the bands that they would put us with, because we were heavy with our originals, I guess, they would group us in with like punk and hardcore bands. And we would also, and at the time, dude, I mean, I meet kids all the time that come into the shop like, oh yeah, I play drums or I play guitar, but I don't have a drummer, I don't have a bass player or whatever.
Yeah.
My high school was crazy. There was from freshman to senior year, there was never less than like 8 bands that played in the schools. We had ska bands, punk bands, hardcore bands, metal bands, rock bands, jam bands. Like there was kids everywhere played instruments. So it's crazy to me to think that like these guys that in that age group now are like lone rangers, like they can't find anybody to play with. But getting back to the the shows that we were playing, we would play like what do they call them? Like the kind of like local band nights or whatever at Toad's Place once in a while and stuff like that. But when we played the tune-in, it was primarily like ska, punk, hardcore. That's what came through that venue.
Mm-hmm.
So they would group us in with like the hardcore band. So I would, we'd get done playing. We'd open most of the shows. Like nobody cared. We were playing cheesy covers, like,
Yeah.
But then like, I would see the bands that were coming through. And I remember, I think we got put with like Sum of All Fears one time, which was like a hardcore band from like Bridgeport, Fairfield at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw them and I was like, holy shit, this is cool. Like I want to see more of this,
Yeah.
And I had other friends that I didn't play in the band with at the time that were going to all those shows. So remember my friend Steve Adario took me to and Tio was there. I think Mike might have came with us, but we went to see Orange 9mm at the tune-in. I think Orange 9mm and Helmet maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like hooked. I was like, this is fucking crazy. Like, seeing people like stage diving, going nuts like that, in like a pack, like a small room packed, like really fucking drew me in,
My first show I ever saw was Hatebreed at Toad's Place. And like people from our area, from Connecticut, the three biggest bands, especially in the metal and hardcore scene, are Hatebreed, Death Threat, and 100 Demons. Like, if you look it up, that you basically control the bill. Like,
they call it there's a meme out there. It says the Holy Trinity of CTHC.
And it's crazy because it's like, I was never like super dialed in to like the hardcore scene, but they were my first show. Yeah. So I didn't really start listening to Death Threat until you started tattooing me. Like I've seen your name on like flyers. Like I'd see you guys like, on different bills. But it wasn't until recently, and like you guys have such a unique sound in comparison. Like a lot of hardcore bands do the Josta vocals, like they try to mimic them. Yeah. Where you guys kind of stand out like a lot.
Yeah, for sure. That's also what drew me to Death Threat as a fan before I joined the band, was that it was a little different because of the vocals. It was huge for me to hear like that same style of music, because the band started out with like the ex-Hatebreed members and stuff, so you kind of like expected that vibe.
Yeah.
But then to hear like something different coming vocally was refreshing.
Yeah. Like there was a band like I just got kind of so stale on it, and I kind of wish I found you guys earlier, but I just got so stale on like hardcore for a while because they were a good band. This band Bury Your Dead, but it.
I remember those guys. Yeah.
And it just. I have both, at least two of their albums, and they were good, but it was just like the guy was just the vocals were just trying to replicate Jamie's, like, you know what I mean? And it was like there was just too many of those. It's almost like black metal. Like they all have that weird, like, I'm gargling on socks kind of voice and with some symphonic stuff in the background. So it's like finding something unique is like rare. That's why it's cool what you guys do, because it has like a lot of punk flair to it, but still hard as hell. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I feel like each album has even like the between the 4 full lengths and the 7 inches and the split and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. There's the sounds a little bit different on each one. It's not like we never tried to write the same album twice, or like say like, oh hey, this song is popular, like let's write another song. We never did any of that shit. We just wrote what we wanted to and rolled with it.
Sick.
Yeah.
And like Death Threat's been around since what, like the late 90s, right?
Yeah, I believe they started in 97. And then I think first, the EP, or I think it was an EP, Last Days came out in 98. Mm-hmm. And then Peace and Security 2000, and pretty soon after Peace and Security dropped is when I joined the band. And then we did 2 more full lengths after that, in 2000 and 2004. Or no, 2002 and 2004 we did Forgotten Government and Now Here Fast. And those are the 4 full lengths. Like we've never done a full length since. It's always been, 4 songs on a split or 4 songs on a 7-inch, or
And who, like, you, when you were coming in, your role, I know like a lot of people who are in the hardcore scene said that you stepped into, his name was Boulder's position.
So, Boulder was already out of the band at that point. CJ had left the band,
Mm-hmm.
and now prior to that, maybe me and Steve were playing in a band, a hardcore band together, and called Disowned at the time. It was we played from like, man, I don't know, 96 to 99 or 97 to 99, something like that. And or no, it went into 2000. Either way, me and Steve were playing in a band together, and Death Threat was kind of like, having fill-ins on bass and stuff like that. And CJ and I were friends, and he called me and said, "Hey, can I get Steve's number? We don't have a bass player right now. I wanted to see if he'll play with us." I was like, "Whoa, that's fucking sick!" Because me and Steve love Death Threat,
Yeah.
And so I gave him his number, and next thing I knew, Steve was playing full time. That right after that happened, they did a U.S. tour, and I went out with them towards the end of it for like a week or a week and a half, and hung out. So before I was in the band, I was like on the road with them a little bit.
Yeah.
And, then when CJ left, it was funny because CJ called me to get to get Steve in, and then when CJ left, Steve called me and said, "Hey, CJ left. Do you want to come run through the songs, see if you want to do it or whatever?" And it just and I'll tell you what, I never showed up more prepared for something. I was like, I'm getting this fucking gig, and I learned all those songs the best I could, and we got together and jammed. We did a bunch of shows before making it official, but and at the time, because CJ was gone and I was just kind of new to playing the songs, Sean Martin, that was in Hatebreed for a while, and 100 Demons, he was playing with Death Threat too. And so my first like 5 or 6 shows, I would say, were me and Sean on both playing guitar. And Boulder was already out of the band at that point. We did, let's see, we were going out, I want to say 2002, we were doing a tour with it was Hatebreed, Shadows Fall, 6 Feet Under, and Death Threat. And we had some shows leading up to wherever the tour left from. I want to say it started either maybe somewhere out in the Midwest or something like that. I don't know, I have the past somewhere. But either way, the shows that we did leading up, to meet up with that tour package, Boulder actually came out and played with us. I want to say it was maybe like 3 or 4 shows. But yeah, he whatever, we made like a new, a different set list, and it was me and Boulder on guitar, and Steve and Aaron, and the drummer at the time, his name was Bill. But yeah, we had like a it's weird how the members and like all this stuff kind of comes, I don't want to say full circle, but like it kind of makes its rounds like that, where like I've gotten to play with that band, with all the original members at one time or another, and every member since. So it's been cool.
All right, so let me ask you this: like, what does the hardcore scene mean to you? Because I know you're really like, that's your shit, man. Like, what does hardcore mean to you?
Well, I don't know. It's a hard thing to make like a single statement about, but I think what it gets a lot of people through a lot of shit, like you could have the most miserable week of your life, and then a bunch of bands are playing on a Friday night and you want to go down, and it's not just hardcore, that's anything. But you kind of like, as you're growing up, or going through that kind of shit, you find a place where you feel like you're home and you're comfortable and you can be yourself, and I think that's probably the coolest thing about it. And I like heavy music. That's a huge part of it too, like not to take away from that, but there's community aspects, and I have people that I met when I was 15, 16 years old through going to punk and hardcore shows and ska shows that I still talk to this day. I'm almost 44. So, they're not my best friends. They're not people that I check up on every day, but like we chat once in a while, comment online, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool because you find people outside your immediate circle, and then like that carries through, and it's all because of that. You all kind of separately found that place where you felt like you fit in,
Yeah.
and then you're still here. It's cool.
Dude, I love like the metal scene and like the hardcore scene. It has like a unique crowd of people. Like I think they get the like a bad rap because the music's so like aggressive and wild. But I mean, granted, it does get fucking crazy at those shows in a
Yeah.
friendly way. Like people
Yeah.
don't realize there are rules inside of a mosh pit. Like you like if somebody falls, you help them up. Anybody
Yeah.
that is abusing, you're gonna get fucked up. But
Yep.
but no, like it's such a like unique crowd. Like most of the people, it's crazy. Like most of the metalheads that I like would hang with, they're the type of people that like they're wild at the shows, but then they're gonna go home and they're gonna quietly play D&D, like in the corner.
Right.
Like they're like really like quiet, sheltered people until they're in that community. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And no, it really does. Like that really helps people get through some shit. Like I've always loved being around that. Like same and when I was a kid, like I was really big into like ICP and like the whole Juggalo crowd and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's a weird crowd, but they
They're all weird crowds.
I don't know,
every
they're like kind of extra crispy, like at times, like one guy like thought because of like that whole mindset, he's just like, yo, like, is it okay if I take your girlfriend on a date and you could take mine? And I almost beat the fuck out of him, like in the crowd. Like,
yeah.
I was like, that's a bold statement. He's like, oh, well, we're family. Like, that's where I started drawing the lines. I was like, fuck these people, bro.
Wow.
But no, it's, I'd rather go to a metal show than any other show on the planet.
Yeah.
Though.
Yeah.
Like I've seen some like my gateway bands when I was coming up, and I love like those like Battlefield eras, like where there's always like it's like super competitive. Like I feel like it's not happening right now, but like for me, like the late '90s when I was getting in, it was, Slipknot, Static X, Mudvayne, like Korn, like it was like a killer fucking lineup back then. But I didn't really start getting into the underground shit until like late 2000s. You started kind of doubling back in. Like, have you ever heard of Red Chord from Max?
Yeah. Yeah.
I got into them. Trauma Concept. They were someone I saw off of Battle for Ozfest.
Oh yeah.
You guys should have went on that show. I think you would have definitely controlled Connecticut.
What like
A Battle for Ozfest? But I'm kind of surprised. Like you guys, I didn't see you guys on that bill because you guys have like a massive following that goes internationally.
Yeah, but I mean, back then we were, I don't know when those battles were happening or whatever, but if it was any time in like the early 2000s, like we were on the road a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So, I missed a lot of stuff at home. We were out doing our thing with other bands that were doing the same thing. So it was never like I probably didn't even know about that shit when it was happening, I was just never home, and like the internet wasn't what it is today. Like we didn't have, really any social media at all. I mean, that was before there was message boards, but like, nobody was jumping on them to be like, yo, go put your band on this, like.
Dude, I miss message boards. It was like, there's always like a chill vibe in there. Now I hate social media. Like I keep being told I got to use like Instagram. I fucking hate it. Like I can't stand it. They're like, oh, well, if you want to get your name out there, you got to use it, and it's just like, well, what the fuck, like.
That's probably my favorite of them all. I don't have a Twitter. I don't have. I have a TikTok, but I don't use it for anything. I think I have one video on there. But I had intention, like when I first like found out about TikTok and stuff. I'm like, oh, sick! I can make cool tattoo videos, and then it was like an explosion of that shit where I was like seeing them reposted on Instagram and stuff, and I'm like, yeah. They beat me to it, like,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna put in all this work. I even bought. I got those Ray-Bans that record. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna make sick videos. Never did it. It's just like when I get in my zone and I start working, dude. The last thing I want to do is start setting up lights and cameras and shit to video.
Even with this project, like, it's crazy. Like, I bought a bunch of shit that I don't even use, and I probably will never use. And it's like, it's crazy. Like, I know it drives Kayla nuts. Like, I'll hear like. Like if outside of your trailer and the other chick, like obviously I got like these hook music that are like really dark and kind of ominous, but like as soon as I hear that, I will abandon everything I'm doing at that moment, and I have to like run the idea, otherwise it's just gonna be gone.
Yeah,
like, it's nightmarish. Like, but I'll never use half this cut and crap and all the. I got boom mics out the ass, like I'll never use, like. But so when did you get into tattooing? Like when did that begin for you? Like,
I did my first tattoo in 2008, like I probably like around like November, December, and pretty soon after that, I started. That was when like MySpace was popping, so I would just go on there and say like, I was apprenticing, so I'd say, hey, I'm doing free tattoos. And people would tip me and stuff like that, but like, hey, I'm doing free tattoos. And I mean, like, the beauty of that was like all that social media shit was still young, so people would travel, people would come out and fucking see me to get a tattoo. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. I was doing my best, but like I didn't have like a real like education on like tattoo styles and stuff like that. So it was kind of like people would like, oh hey, I want an anchor, I want it to look like this. Oh, all right, whatever. So I did a ton, hundreds of tattoos for free throughout my apprenticeship, and then wound up getting a job at a shop that was closer to home after that. But yeah, that was, so I guess '08 I did my first ones, but I wouldn't really say that like I was deep into it until like '09. It was kind of like a slow start. When I say slow start, it was probably like a 2-month gap where I was just like, all right, let me, let's try to figure this shit out and what I can do, what I'm capable of at this point in time. And it wasn't something that I like, I didn't get out of high school and be like, I want to be a tattoo artist. It was just something that came up
over time.
Yeah, I was working as a carpenter pretty much straight out of high school. I worked for a screen printer too for a little bit, but I was working as a carpenter, and then work got slow one winter, around that time, like around Thanksgiving time, and had an opportunity to learn how to tattoo, and I jumped on it.
So like, I know, like, were you like nerve wracked like the first time you did one? Because I know
No.
Kayla, she was terrified when she first sat down to like do something. Just for the record, like my wife, she's an apprentice or something for tattooing, but she was terrified. Like I almost had to talk her off the ledge. It's like, just relax, because like her hands were shaking. I was like, I wouldn't let you near me like with that needle. Like, just relax, Yeah,
it was like the weirdest thing for me is that I never got nervous about that. Years later when I was like trying more intricate stuff, and I get a little bit nervous, but like when I first jumped into it, dude, I was just like, yeah, whatever. It's put it in this far, hang your needle that far, remember to dip in ink. Like I guess, I don't know. It's kind of reflecting on it. I'm like, wow, it's fucking careless. Like, I probably should have been nervous, but I wasn't. I don't know. I just did it, And it's funny because the dudes that I taught how to tattoo after, most of them to this day, like kind of make a joke out of it. How I'm like, just do the tattoo, like, I don't know. Should I do this? Should I do that? How should I angle it? Like, just do the fucking tattoo. You know how to hold it. Like, just do it. But
let's just do it for the record. Wes has done all my ink. Like, I have extensive ink. I would take my shirt off. You should see my back. It's pretty fucking dope. Like,
oh yeah, if anybody's listening to this that follows me on Instagram, it's not too far down on the thing. Chris is the one with the Iron Maiden back that we're working on.
Yeah, man. I was just talking about. Just remember, from my last interview, Wes is the best. We're gonna make that a hashtag.
Thanks for sending me that clip. That was funny.
Wes is the best. Put Burning Hearts to the test. Like, that might be too long for a hashtag, but no, like, I fucking hate. I love the finished product. I like being at the shop. I fucking hate getting tattooed.
Oh, same. It's
like,
miserable.
Like, it wasn't bad. Like, on my arms, like, there's certain spots that sucked, but like, there was a lot of spots. Like, after like 2 lines, like, you stop feeling it. Mm-hmm. But then, like, my back, like, you feel it in everywhere. Like, it's like getting electrocuted.
My back, I had no problem with the shading, but the line work on it, was like torture to me. It was miserable.
The chest is by far the worst.
I just got mine redone.
Dude, it came out
great. My fucking chest twice. It sucked. But I'll tell you what, though. The first time I got it done, that was the first tattoo I got was on my chest. It was the mad ball on this side. Mm-hmm. And I was in, the tattoo shop that I was at, my friend Big Pete was in there, and he was there when I was getting my first tattoo for like a second. He didn't like hang out for it, but he was like, "Oh, what are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm getting a mad ball on my chest." And he's like, "Your chest for your first one?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Good luck." And I'm like, "All right, whatever." Like this is a dude that's like, covered in tattoos on his feet, his legs, his arms. And I had no fucking idea. So I laid down, did it actually. So when I went there and got my first one, I wasn't even planned. I went there to buy my brother a gift certificate for Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew the dude that he was getting tattooed by at the time. And the dude was like, "Oh, when are you going to get a tattoo?" I was like, "Oh, I was thinking about doing this." He's like, "I got time right now." I was just like, "All right, whatever." Dude, I just fucking did it. Like, I got the outline. He had enough time to do the outline. And then I remember, I drove back to Hamden and went to my girlfriend's house at the time, who's now my wife. And I went to her house. I'm like, "Oh, I got a tattoo." She's like, "What?" It was like totally like, spur of the moment. I didn't have a cell phone or nothing. Like, I didn't call to be like, "Hey, I'm doing this," But yeah, that I definitely did not know what I was in for. And then, that one wasn't bad because, he had an hour or two of time where he could squeeze me in, and he did the outline, and I went back, got the shading. So it was like, it didn't really hit me how shitty it was until I got the other side done. And now, I had like a dragon over here, and he did, I think the dude did the outline and the color in that dragon in one session, and then did a background session, which if you saw the fucking pic, you've seen the pictures. It was just solid black chunks of ink, and it was torture.
Oh my God. I can only imagine. I mean, we got a good amount of mine done, but like, dude, I forgot because, all right, just for context, I had put in the request and I put in, like, I filled out the form and said the chest, but then we had finished, one arm, and then we were talking about like my left arm, and you were like, "Yo, meet me come up to the convention." So in my head, I knew I had an appointment coming up, so I thought we were just going to continue on the arm. But when you had the stencils, you're like, "Yo, like, this is gonna suck, bro." Like, and I was just like, "We're doing what now?" Like, I forgot about it.
Did we do your chest at the convention?
No, we did my
no, we
arm,
did the top
mansion.
Yeah.
But when I had an appointment like 3 weeks later. And I, in my head, because we were still talking about the sleeve, I thought we were going to continue the arm. I had forgot I had put in
the request
for the chest. So when you came out and you were holding the stencils, and I was like, and you were like, "Yeah, the chest, man. It's like, I'm proud of you, but it's like, this is gonna suck. I ain't gonna lie to you." And I sounded like, "We're doing what now?" Like, and I was like, "All right, well, we're here." So like. And what made it even worse is we were watching. There was a stand-up thing. It was on the TV. So like trying not to laugh.
Yeah.
Like, it was like holding it, and then I can hear Kayla over getting tattooed by Mickey just casually talking, like, and I'm like, but no, it came out sick. We got actually good amount of it done. In one go. It's just like the skulls that's pretty much left, like the shit in it. Not much.
No, we'll get there.
But. You did my first tattoo in 2012, and I think it really shows as like a test to like the type of artist you are, because I wasn't gonna lie, like I had no ink. I was big into piercing and stuff. I had my septum done. It was Jay Prince did all my piercing and stuff.
Jay Prince.
It's a fucking
love
best.
That dude. Yeah.
But I remember I was originally gonna I have the Orcish Horde thing on the back, and it was originally gonna be on my chest, and it was Jay. That guy, that he was like a heavyset dude. He pierced for a while.
Yeah, J.U.
Yeah, like and he was like, "You sure?" He's like, "Bro, I wouldn't do it." like, and I was like, "You sure?" And he was like, "Bro, like, find another spot. Like, do the leg or something. Like, easy shit. Like, I wouldn't do that for your first." But I remember like when I rolled up, dude, for the appointment, I was nervous as hell. And I know you were like running like a few minutes. You're like, "Yo, I just got this." My tattoos run a little bit, maybe a half an hour, and I was like, "Yeah, fine." Like almost like in my head, like I could find a way to talk myself out of this. And but no, it was like mad chill. Like I remember you made me like watch you break. You like everything's sealed. This is like all the shit. This is the chemicals I use, and it just like lowered the fucking the tension.
Oh, awesome! Yeah.
And this is back. You didn't have any hair at the time. Like you were pretty much bald.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think you had less hair then, but
Flip flop.
like, but no, like I think that, like, I've been to countless appointments with friends of mine that have gotten stuff done. I've never seen any artist other than you do that.
Yeah, I normally do that for first timers, and I didn't until you said that I didn't realize I've been, kind of running down it that long. But yeah, I think it makes people feel better, and my point in doing that is that dude, I've been tattooed by like 30 different people. Like I know people are going to go other places, get tattoos. I want to, if I can give them a little bit of education on their first run to say like, hey, these are the things you should be looking for. Mm-hmm. I think it's helpful. How much of that, somebody retains is up to them. But, I like to at least put the info out there so that they know what to look for and what the red flags are if they're walking into a situation that's not safe,
Yeah. I remember like when I decided, like I would go back and forth on like all these ideas, and I'm kind of glad I didn't just like put every idea I've ever had like on my body, like, because I would have been covered with just shit, shit. Like, but when I decided, it was like literally that was in 2012, and it was 10 years later, literally, that and I didn't even know like and it was crazy because I found out the guy that came up with the idea of this show. Oh, you also tattooed Mike Cross.
Oh yeah,
and he used to tell me all the time. Like, I was like, bro, like we gotta, like, I'm trying to find a guy that tattooed me. So when you type up tattoo like Connecticut West, like there's like mad fucking names that just randomly pop up. And he's like, fuck all these guys, just go to Death Threat Wes. I had no idea who he's talking about, and he would always yell about Death Threat Wes. And then it was like, and then to find out that you were the guy he was talking about the whole time, it was like a fucking mind fuck.
That's funny.
Yeah, he was all about it, and he had a lot of sick stuff done by you. I know he had wasn't sure. I'm not sure if you did this one or not, but he had like the Hellraiser puzzle box.
No, I didn't do that one. I did the there was like the last one I did on was like a skull on his shin with like crosses coming out of it. Before that, I can't remember, dude. I'm sure I could probably find pictures and stuff, but I definitely had probably 4 or 5 sessions with him before he passed, and I can't think of like the initial stuff that we did, but I remember that one specifically because we were both like super psyched on how it came out, and that was really the last time I saw him. He had another appointment with me after that. And I was like, he didn't show up, and I was like, oh, this is weird. And then like I Googled his name like a couple of weeks later because I'm like, it kind of stuck with me. Like something's wrong here. Like this dude would have called me back by now. Mm-hmm. And found his obituary. I was like, damn.
Yeah, man, it caught everybody off guard, and and I just abandoned this project. And you yourself are also a big reason to why I came back to it, because I realized that like the older I get, like if you surround yourself with people that really aren't doing shit, like it'll keep you in that space. But then starting to go to the shop and like, just talking to you about like you're doing different stuff with the bands and different stuff with the tattoos, and like you're always like thinking when you're around ambitious people, you start like kind of like it just starts reigniting the furnace. 100%. So like you're a big reason, especially, and then we started talking about the mob stuff and like just random like mafia crap. And now it's like a real thing. Like
it's crazy.
And so you're a big reason why I'm doing this now. Like you had a big role in getting me going.
That's awesome. Thank you.
So like man, it's wild. Like just how like when you look at how the gears turn on everything in life. Yeah. It's like fate, chances, and like I don't know. I don't really believe in coincidences, but like this shit's been a wild experience so far.
Hell yeah.
You went to war with the city of Hamden, found like hold over Jim Crow laws, which is a big thing that I want people to realize.
Yeah.
Like how did that even come about?
So, before I opened the shop in Waterbury, which was, for context, the dude that I was working for at the time, Jay Youth, we moved out of the space we were in and to the shop that became Burning Hearts Tattoo. And I want to say maybe like 8 months or a year into us moving, he was just like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, you want to, I think his exact words were, want to buy a tattoo shop? I was like, yeah. But prior to that, you know, when I was working for him, I kind of toyed with the idea a little bit. I went around, looked at spaces. And it was interesting because the first space that I looked at before I even said anything to anyone I worked with, I was just kind of like, oh, I'm thinking about kind of doing my own thing, talking to my wife about it and whoever else would listen. I went to, there's a place in Prospect that, because I lived in Hamden and driving to Waterbury, I was kind of thinking like somewhere in between. And
drive, man.
Yeah, so the spot that I went to go look at in Prospect, like the landlord was on board. I went to town hall, talked to them, and it was a situation with zoning where they said like, well, okay, we don't really have any rules set or any zoning regulations set for tattoo shops, but so we can't say no, but you have to go through the health department first. Mm-hmm. So now Cheshire, Prospect, and Wolcott all share health departments called Chespercott, and it's located in Cheshire. And I was like, all right, that sounds good. So I went down. The woman in charge at the time, she's like, all right, this is what you need, whatever. And I could tell she was kind of like, she wasn't into the idea at all. She told me to get like a plan made of, like a blueprint made of how I'm going to set up the shop. Mm-hmm. Like, all right. So my father-in-law is a carpenter. Went to him. I'm like, hey, can you help me? Here's the measurements or whatever. And he made like up a blueprint or whatever. And it was like dealing with this woman got like worse and worse and worse. Every step I took, everything she told me to do, I came back with it. Yeah. And I think that she was annoyed with me and she, whatever, just didn't want it to happen. And she asked me for ridiculous stuff. She wanted to know what the water usage was, and I'm like, everything's disposable. Like, what do you mean water usage? I'm not I'm not putting anything down the sink. But yeah, she asked me for that. She asked me for, there was a bunch of other stuff that was kind of like, took me by surprise. And that now I understand that the water thing was because that was septic. There was a septic system on that at that location. But bottom line is I came back to her with everything she asked me for. And then the last time I went to go meet up with her, because she had me change something on the plans, she wanted to see something about, because there was like a back room at the place that like wasn't used. And I told her it was for storage. She wanted to see how my shelves were going to be set up. It was something ridiculous. And I was like, so I go back to her again, one more time, gave her what she asked for. I had my son with me at the time, who's like 5 years old. And I rolled out the blueprint again on her, whatever podium or whatever the hell she was standing in front of. And she like kind of snapped at me. She's like, you can stand on the other side, sir. I was like, whoa. I said, and at this point, I'm like, I'm catching the vibe. I'm like, this sucks. So I just was straight up with her. And I was like, do you have like a personal problem with me? Like, is there some reason you don't want me, pulling through with this? Mm-hmm. And she said, I'll tell you right now that I don't want a tattoo shop in Prospect, and I promise you nobody else does either. And I was like, okay. And, I made my, I said something to her about the way she was talking to me in front of my son, and I knew that was it. It was a wrap. So I kind of like kicked that to the curb and, went over when we moved, with Jay to the Waterbury location on Meriden Road that became Burning Hearts. Mm-hmm. And wound up doing that. Now, in the meantime, I had gone to Hamden planning and zoning, and I got the regulations or whatever, and they had it set up that you could only open in an M zone under special permission. So I didn't even know what that meant, and it was basically like, for lack of a better term, it's basically like you had to go inside an industrial park. Right. And they had it categorized with like strip clubs or whatever. And I know I've probably made this joke to you before, but like if I'm going to go open in the middle of nowhere to either open a tattoo shop or a strip club, guess what I'm doing? Because it's going to make a lot more money, Damn right. So, and from what I had heard, the issue is that there was a shop that moved into Hamden, years before that they changed those regulations or those zoning regulations. And I guess one of the neighboring businesses got pissed because they didn't want a tattoo shop there, and they went down and complained to town hall or whatever. So they wound up changing them so that basically you couldn't open on a main road. You had to be kind of like hidden off, right? So my friend Sarah told me, I was talking to her about it while I was tattooing her one day in Waterbury, and she's like, they do these, economic redevelopment meetings. You should go to that and like, tell them what you're trying to do, speak in front of all the people, tell them what you're trying to do. So I did, and went down there and gave him this whole speech. And I had this guy walk up to me at the end of it. Well, I had two people walk up to me at the end of it. One was a lawyer, and he's like, "This is bullshit. I can help you." And then the second guy worked for the town. I'm not going to say what his title was or anything because I don't, I never threw him under the bus for any of this shit, and I'm not going to start now.
Yeah.
But this other guy, after the lawyer approached me, this other guy came up to me and gave me this whole spiel about how, he has a soft spot in his heart for tattoos. His dad was a Navy guy. He wants to help me, this and that. So like, I felt real good leaving that meeting. I'm like, wow, I'll take the high road here. Like, this dude said he's willing to help me, cool. So I followed up with him at his office that following Monday. And he said to me, listen, find places that you'd be interested in going to. I'll run it by the planner. We'll see what we can do, and see if we can get you into one of these spots, whatever. So I mean, dude, a year and a half went by where I'm sending him locations, and he's shooting them down every time I send him one. Oh no, that's too close to the canal. Oh no, that's too close to a preschool. This is too close to this, and kept like shutting me down, and then eventually stopped responding to me.
Was it just like a bait, like almost like to stall you up? Or
I guess so, but like I don't know how anyone would try to fucking stop that. I just don't understand it. Like why would you put any effort into stalling me doing what I do for a living? Unless you really had a hard on to like, oh, I don't want any tattoo shops in this town, and you're gonna try to like, push it off until I'm tired of trying. I don't understand why anyone would do that. Maybe, but so time went on. I got pissed, and one night I had a few drinks, put up a post on Facebook, and just like rattled it all off, dude. I tagged the mayor in it at the time, and it was basically like, this is bullshit. I have to travel, because of the whole Chespercott experience. Like, I knew I couldn't go to Cheshire. I knew I couldn't go to Prospect. Knew I couldn't go to Wolcott. I lived in Hampden. I've lived in Hampden almost my whole life, with the exception of like 2 years when I was a kid. So, I just, wrote out this post basically saying like, it's unfair that I can't make money in the town that I live in, that I pay taxes in. Right. I pay insane taxes to be here. Hampden is ridiculous. And I have to travel outside of my town to fucking make a living. It's crazy. So I made this whole post or whatever. And like I said, I had a few drinks beforehand. And I'm like, so I wake up the next morning and I'm like, that was stupid. I probably shouldn't have like put myself out there like that. And I went to go delete it, and it had like hundreds of shares, people from the town, the mayor was commenting on it, like all this stuff. And I'm like, holy shit, I got some traction. So after that, and I got the same thing people were saying, that these guys at town hall were saying to me prior to doing that. They kept just saying to me, oh, this doesn't happen overnight. This doesn't happen overnight. Something's got to happen, and then I kind of got the same line from, the people that I dealt with after I made that post. And, I just kind of kept on them, and, they kept on me at this time because it just kept spreading, and, people were talking about it. And I had, this guy from a newspaper come down to interview me, and it was like, turned into kind of a big thing. And then, besides the zoning regulations that were on tattoo shops, the guy that did the newspaper article or whatever, it was like an online newspaper or whatever, New Haven something. But he found, other stuff that was bullshit. Now, the two things that I dug up, besides the tattoo shop, was the other one was they had a restriction on what they called rap studios.
That was a rap studio.
I don't know. And that's the thing. And that's why, so I mean, I called it out on that, and I'm like, this is this is literally just racist. Like, you can't say that you can't record rap music in your town. Like, you
Right.
can't do, if you're gonna have a problem with recording studios, that's one thing. You have to, like, include everybody, but you can't just say, like, I don't want people recording rap music in my town.
Yeah.
So so I included that in my initial post where I was pissed about, and I think that might have been what lit the fire, because if it was just tattoos, I think it would have gotten overlooked.
Do you think what happened, the incident that happened at the shop Touch of Color, also played a role?
No, because those regulations were in place. Like, Touch of Color had been there for like 20 years at that time.
Well, not like in the rap studio sense, but I mean, for just to give context, it was a situation that involved organized crime between motorcycle clubs, and the shop owner was murdered in his shop, essentially. But not to go too far into it, we'll be talking to somebody involved, so like at some point. But do you think that like played a role with you starting a shop in the area? Like, they're thinking back to that guy's murder, or were you already in business when that happened?
No, I wasn't. I remember, because I lived around the corner from his shop, and I remember coming home that night and seeing FBI trucks lined up, and like, I knew he was in a bike club and stuff. I didn't know him personally, but like, I saw dudes hanging out there and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh shit, this guy's getting arrested. I saw a bunch of FBI trucks and shit outside.
Yeah.
And I found out, the next day that somebody rolled up on him at the back door and shot him. But that was, that happened after they'd already changed those zoning regulations.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So that didn't really have an impact on it. Now, what I think the rap studio thing is that there was a really small, like, kind of record store right in that same area that somebody got shot outside of there. And I think maybe that's what they were thinking when they said, but it wasn't a recording studio. It was a fucking record store, but they sold like hip hop and R&B stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's where that stemmed from or not, but that was the only thing I could think of when I read that. And, like I said, that, but you gotta, when you're including someone else's issue in that, and getting traction from it, you got to kind of, now it's your responsibility to make sure that gets taken care of too, right? Like, you can't just say, like, there's all these problems, but just fix mine,
right?
So then the guy who did the newspaper article included the tattoo shops, the rap studio thing, and then he also found one that said there was a zoning regulation against male and female impersonators, so like drag shows.
What the hell, man?
So he included that. Now, not only because my post was getting crazy on there, but now he put out that article.
It's just getting more fire now. Like,
it's just, there's more shit building up. And when I had talked to the planner on the phone, he said to me, he's like, we're gonna work on this tattoo thing. He's like, I don't even know what to do with these other things. And I remember saying to him, I was like, well, the first thing you got to remember is that rappers don't go to rap studios, they go to recording studios. And we kind of got to laugh at it because he's not the one that made that rule, like, right. But and the thing was, is I did a follow-up interview after that, after everything got settled. And it's funny because the second article that came out, the guy labeled something like tat was quick or something like that, like that was quick, but tattoo.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, though. This shit had been going on with me for 2 years at this point, where I was trying to get them to let me in. But once all that stuff kind of came out, it got resolved pretty quickly. Within 2 months, I think, they had all that language. Like, I mean, they just removed it. We got to figure out how to rephrase this. No, you don't. Take it out. Like, there's no reason to have a zoning regulation in there about a rap studio or a drag show. Like, who cares?
See, so I don't understand why anybody would throw a fit like about it. Like, wouldn't you want to have, like, tattooing has grown so much. It's not as taboo as it used to be. Like, it's such like it's an everybody market at this point.
Yeah.
Like, why would you not want to have a cash generator like in the town? Like,
so here's why. So, and I've mentioned this to a few people. I mentioned to somebody that was working within the town at one point, and he brought up a good point. He said, look, it's not like anybody's getting a a cut when a business comes in. And I said, well, that's the thing. So like, here's the deal. The way Hamden charges tax, well, the way any town charges taxes on business is by the personal property that you have inside. So if I own a machine shop that has, 5 machines that are worth $1 million each, they can tax me on that. I own a tattoo shop that has a bunch of pictures I drew hanging on the wall, and we each have a couple tattoo machines. So it's not a big like money generator for them.
I got you.
As a personal property tax, to do a personal business like that. I'm sure it's the same way hairdressers, they probably have more money into equipment than we do. But it's the same thing. So like, yeah, nobody's getting a cut to bring in a bigger business, but if somebody there's going to approve it and look like a hero to the rest of their comrades, then, they're going to want to bring in the machine shop or a Walmart or, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Right.
So that's how that works. And everybody says that to me, like, oh, why are we turning down businesses to come into the town? Well, that's why. You're not important if you're not, bringing in $30,000 or $50,000 a year in taxes,
Right. But you ended up winning the war, and you got like your spot is perfect,
dude. So that's the thing. All through this, right up to the meeting where they approved it, I had people calling me, going, "Oh, so people from the town calling me like, oh, it looks like this is gonna go through. So where are you thinking about going?" I didn't tell anybody shit because I already signed the lease. I knew I was gonna be right across from town hall. And the last thing I needed was for somebody to throw a wrench in the works or delay it because I already signed a lease and I was committed, That
is like the best middle finger like of all time. Like all the bullshit and then you're right across the street. I didn't even think about that.
Yep.
Like, you are right across the street.
Yep. And the woman that signed off on my sign permit or whatever it was was like she's like, "Oh, I guess she saw the address finally." And she's like a friend of a friend. So we get kind of got a laugh out of it. But she's like, oh, I guess she's like, this should be pretty cool. I can't miss it now.
So like, what were what artists do you look up to, or like do you get inspiration from?
I was always into some like I always liked the kind of like the West Coast cholo style, the lettering. I love looking at those old flash sheets with like low riders on them and shit like that, like the soft black and gray stuff. Like Mr. Cartoon style shit where it's got like all different types of lettering. The first books, how I got into lettering, I did graffiti as a kid. So I was always into like trying to make letters look cool,
Right.
It was always like fascinating to me. But, going from that to looking at how these guys that were putting out books at the time, like BJ, I learned how to draw a script looking at BJ Bett's books and like tracing his alphabets and stuff like that. So he's another one that like just amazing work, that do big knees, does awesome lettering, and he does like great, all his black and gray tattoos are fucking sick too, but yeah, there was never I never had like one hero where I was like, I want a tattoo like this guy. But I kind of like, I took a little bit in from everybody and from my own experiences, painting when I was a kid. But yeah, I don't know, man, that's kind of like where I found, what I wanted to do and, what I love doing in tattooing. And, I do a little bit of everything, kind of keep it a secret that I can do color, but I can do it. I can draw, traditional stuff and tattoo it. I love doing lettering. I love doing black and gray. I don't do there's all these guys out there doing like the hyper realism stuff. I wish I could do it. I just, I can get it close, but I still put line work into my tattoos. But, whatever, again, kind of draw a little bit from everybody that I see and find things that I like. And even getting tattooed is huge to me because, the guitar I got on the side of my neck, like watching my boy Lou Jacques from Clockwork Tattoo did that for me, and just watching him draw it on the paper. It's a guitar with a banner in it, and watching him draw the banner like up my game on drawing banners. So like, I tell everybody, apprentices or people that get into tattooing that want, oh yeah, what should I do? I'm like, just go get tattooed by people, watch how they do shit, whether it's something you want to try or something you say like, hey, I never want to try this. Like you're gonna pick up something from everybody.
That's like even Kayla. Like Kayla, she picks up just on like the few interactions. Like, all right, she did a coffee pot. I think you've seen it. It was like a jack-o'-lantern coffee pot.
Yeah, came out great.
That was like literally like you were wrapping up, I think, one of mine. And I think it was when you were shading. We started the Iron Maiden back piece. So you figure she came in at the end. You were showing her a couple things. She used that technique like the next day. Yeah. Like she can retain information like weird. Like the way she learns shit's weird. Like in a lot of the techniques that she uses, she's learned from you. Just watching you great. Or from Mickey. Like,
yeah.
Which like I know like the people that she looks up to, like obviously you and Mickey, she looks up to a lot for inspiration. She looks at this guy Robbie Poles, who is he's like down in Florida. He was on Ink Master at one point, so she's been talking to him a lot. Darren Brass, like it's cool. Like it's cool to like when I talk to you and Mickey, and the people at her shop. It's cool to see like the dynamic. Every one of you has a different style and unique.
And a different way of doing stuff,
Right.
Once you get past like the setup on your board or your tray or whatever you're using, like everything that comes after that. I mean, obviously that comes first, but like everything that comes after that, everybody does shit a little bit different, and it's always good to watch. Like, hey, I'm sure, I know Kayla has been tattooing like a crazy long time, but I'm sure if I watched her tattoo, there would be something that I picked up that I was like, oh shit, I'm gonna try that,
I don't remember what it was per se, like, but I remember even when you were working on my back, you had said you tried a different approach on something, and it ended up working. You're like, I forgot what it was. It was like a mix of stippling and something else, but
yeah, stippling and gray shading, yeah.
And you were like, damn, I might start fucking with this, like
yeah. And it was because of the way that album cover was done. Once you take it down to black and gray, and I'm looking at it on the iPad, like in those, all those colors go away, and you're just seeing like 4 or 5 shades of gray. It kind of looks like stippling at that point, and I never really thought about it like that. And those album covers are all hand painted and stuff like that. So like once they get shrunk down, everything looks a little bit different. I'm sure whoever painted those Iron Maiden covers probably did them on a canvas the size of this room, and then they got shrunk down to an album cover. So that stuff, I don't know. It's interesting to look at it, throwing filters on it and shit like that, just to kind of like get a game plan going on how you want to shade it, And I never thought of doing something like that, but it made sense with the way that painting was set up,
Yeah, I know. Like with Kayla, like her big thing is she wants to get into American traditional, which I know is like kind of like a very from what I've talked to other artists, they say it's like one of the hardest things to kind of like master, but I wouldn't know. But
I guess drawing, it's probably hard to master, but for me, that was the first thing that I learned.
Yeah.
It's a little bit easier to tattoo with a bold liner than it is with a thin liner. Putting in solid colors, once you get some practice in, putting in solid chunks of color is a little easier than doing a color blend, so like, that was the first thing I learned, but and I am not dissing traditional guys at all, because I can't, I'm a big fan of looking. I don't have much of it on my body, but like looking at it and seeing how they draw stuff and like kind of simplify it down to that, but still make it look fucking cool, is like, right. is awesome to me.
All right. So how did the shop survive the pandemic? Like, cause that destroyed like goddamn every tattoo business, a lot of them, and you ended up making it through it. Like,
yeah, dude. I mean, I can credit that to a few things. One was, we got shut down for 3 months. And, I knew a lot of dudes that were still like, fuck that. They're not telling me to do shit, this and that. Now I had my wife was like paranoid about me even going out to get groceries, like,
yeah.
But, and then also they're like, oh yeah, self-employed people are going to get unemployment. Dude, we were out of work for 3 months. I did not see an unemployment check until 2 weeks before I went back to work.
Yeah, that kind of
So
happened with me and Kayla. Like I got put out of work, she got put out of work, and
yeah,
like it was like a massive delay. I got
yeah,
like that and all my stimulus checks like all at once. Like
yeah, that was the thing. And
thankfully,
then then I all of a sudden I had to go back to work, and I was like, fuck. Now I'm sitting on a little bit of cash. I want to stay home more. Yeah, but no. So during that, I use credit cards for stuff here and there. But I'm trying to think. What did I
was there
do?
like a lot of I should say, I guess a better way of phrasing, like, was there a lot of uncertainty of when you were gonna go back to work? Because I know
Yeah,
they
for
were
sure.
really fucking weird about it. Like,
Because they didn't announce it until I all of a sudden, like I said, I got my unemployment back pay all of a sudden, and then it was like, oh, in 2 weeks you're going back to work, or you can reopen or whatever under these stipulations, the masks and all that stuff. But uh, in the meantime, like we sold some Death Threat merch. I was selling shop merch. Luckily, like I said, I screen printed in the past. I still have I had like a huge setup at one point. I had like a 6-color, 6-station press, big conveyor dryer, I had a dark room. I had all that stuff.
mhm.
I sold it all off when I started tattooing, but in between those years, I wound up picking up like a single station press and stuff. So and I could still get, I still had all my old wholesale accounts. So like when that shit happened and I was like out of money, or
Right.
I had money saved, I was still paying my rent. I had people going, "Oh no, 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 talk to your landlord. They'll waive your rent." And this and that. I never did any of that shit, dude. I just paid the dude.
It's good you
And
didn't, because all that
yeah,
did was just file to the back. Like,
yep.
it's all it did. A lot of people thought like, oh yeah, I'm out of work, and then they're pissed off. They got like a $30,000 bill. They're like, yo, what the fuck? Like,
Besides that, my landlord at the old shop was some old Italian guy that lived in Florida. Dude, I would call him because the furnace was broken. He'd be like, "It's not cold out. You're sitting by a
yeah,
pool."
for
And
him.
fucking, yeah,
Yeah.
you know. Um, but yeah. So we did a bunch of Death Threat merch. Banged out some new designs and sold that stuff. So I pretty much got through those months that I didn't have any income by just pushing merch online. And everybody was home, all the people with real jobs were getting unemployment, so they were all buying shit. um so yeah, that's what kind of got me through it. And then all of a sudden I got the unemployment kickback. They did like the PPE loans or whatever it was for businesses. They were talking, I remember at the time they were saying, "Oh yeah, you can get an SBA grant, you'll get like $100,000 or whatever." None of that shit ever happened for me. I applied for them all, I never got anything. I did get like a PP, I think it was called a PPE loan or something like that.
Yeah, I forgot what they were like.
PPP loan.
Only for like people with like, yeah, I think you had to have like a tax ID like to get one or something
Yeah,
along
yeah.
those lines. But yeah, I've heard of people getting those. Yeah.
So I want to, between selling the merch, get my back pay and employment, I got one of those PPP loans. Like that was enough. When we went back to work, I was sitting on just as much money as when I left. So it didn't really impact me. And I do, I have friends that were in the business that 6 months before COVID happened, they were like expanding their shops and like,
Damn.
hiring more people and like, taking on extra rent and moving into bigger places. And they, all of a sudden that shit hit and it was like really hard for them to come back from. So, I got, I guess, right place, right time, kind of lucky where like I wasn't making any moves like that at the time. I got shit going on now where like if they shut me down tomorrow, I don't even know what I would do. But at the time, everything was pretty, was running pretty smooth, and I had all my ducks in a row. So
I don't know, like at least you survived it. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
it was like that whole situation. I knew people that were like they opened like a restaurant. They barely like they were in their first month, they're out of business just because they got shut down like that. You know what I mean? So it's fortunate you stuck around, but you really do have one of the best shops I've ever seen. Like, and it's just like, and it's not even just like you got the perfect location. It's the vibe in there.
Oh, thanks, dude.
It fits like that perfect category. One, it's clean, and then it's calm. Like, I've gone to like I remember, I won't use the name of the shop, but I went with my cousin, and it's in Waterbury, and The dude, first off, he went in. He had the appointment with the owner of the shop. When we went in there for the appointment, the guy was smoking a cigarette at the desk. And
what year was this?
oh, God, it was 2012. It was like maybe it was like 2 months before I got mine.
I love it.
And he was like just putting a cigarette out when we walked in, and then he was like, "Yeah, give me a few minutes and come right back." He's like, "I just got to handle something real quick, and then we'll be good to go." So me and him, we go have lunch. We come back, and the dude just left for the day. And he told some random dude, the guy who was working there, to like, he's like, "Yeah, I handled the tattoo," and left.
Oh
Like,
shit!
it's like the worst. And like I even told him, I was like, "Bro, let's get the fuck out of here." And he was just like, "Nah, man." And even the fucking guy who was was doing script on somebody. He was just like, "Yo," he's like, "I don't really know how to do this stuff, man. I would go get somebody,
Holy shit.
maybe like try to figure something out." And he was like, "Nah, we need to get this, and I need to get this done." And the guy was like, "All right, amigo, like, we'll do this." Like, but like everybody in your shop knows exactly. They know what they're doing. Like it's like they're mad professional. It's a good vibe. It's calm. It's not like wild in there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that's, and it's clean, which is like, it's like it has all the right elements, and it's in a perfect spot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
We have fun there, dude. And I like, you remember at the old location, I had like a private room or whatever. And, when we moved, it's almost the same size. The location that we have now is almost the same size as the old one, but the old one I was able to fit like 7 stations in. I had a big piercing room. The problem is that my new location, the bathroom's like right in the middle. You know where it is.
Yeah.
So like, and there's no basement there, so it's not like I can relocate a fucking toilet and the sink to the other side.
Mm-hmm.
So we're kind of limited as to how many artists we can have, and how big the stations are and stuff. And like, I just didn't have room to do a private room. I probably would have if I had the room. I would, probably would have gave everybody one. But I'm glad that the setup is the way it is, because I didn't realize that I missed that kind of vibe until I got back to it, where like, everybody's right across from each other. We're all, roasting each other all day and having fun and talking shit. And, clients are talking to other clients. Like, it's a fun vibe,
Yeah, like Nick always made me laugh. I remember, I forgot what it was. You were on the phone with something, and you two were breaking each other's balls, and he was just like, "Yeah, I would check your fucking car before you start it." Like, he just walked off. Like, I remember him telling he was tattooing somebody, and you were finishing something on me, and he was telling this lady, he was just like, "Yeah, I don't drink anymore. I'm allergic. I break out in handcuffs." Like that shit. Like it's like that funny fucking banter. If Cheers was a tattoo shop, it'd be your shop.
I love that. I'm gonna do a Cheers knockoff shirt.
Dude, you have to now. Like,
that's
the only
great.
thing you're missing is like a Norm Peterson.
Yeah.
Like,
oh man, that's so good.
So you're celebrating your 10-year anniversary.
Yes, sir.
What is it? 2 weeks 2 weeks from now?
April 1st.
So what a day! All right, so it's not a joke. 10-year anniversary, and I'm happy to announce I'm Burning Hearts and Roll the Bones. We're doing a gift card to Burning Hearts Tattoo.
Yep.
So you're not getting a sleeve.
That giveaway, but
yeah,
not getting a sleeve.
What's that?
You're not getting a sleeve.
You're not getting a sleeve. You're not getting a back piece. We're gonna give you a starting point, $200, to get tattooed by the best.
Cool.
It's gonna be fucking great. And we'll do the giveaway at the end of April.
All right, cool.
So
how you want to set it up? We'll talk.
Yeah, we'll figure all that stuff out. I'm glad you came on, man.
Have fun. I know I get off topic a lot. I'm not used to doing these kind of things, but
me neither. I've
I've
been doing these things, and I get off topic. Doesn't matter if I'm talking with the mob. It doesn't matter. But it's a nice break from, like, we're talking with Levette, Cividonis last week, who's an independent rapper. She's looking into your shop now.
Cool.
But it's a nice break from some of the darker parts of life. I mean, but so the giveaway that's gonna go up, I'm gonna start posting it up on Instagram, and at the end of April we'll figure out a date, and then we'll do a drawing. But the rules are you have to follow both me and Wes on Instagram, and you have to subscribe to this channel. If not, you're you're out of the drawing. You're not getting picked. And it's like, and hopefully we can convince Anthony Arlotta to go get a tattoo.
There you go.
We have to have him come in, and I'll make him an offer he can't refuse. He's got to get tattooed by him. I love that guy. Like, he's amazing. But yeah, man, anybody in, the path in life is always undetermined. So it's really what you decide to make it. We're dealing, if you're anybody in this thing is dealing with any addiction or family members, there's 2 links. One, Black Poster Society, which we got turned on by John Alight, that helps families who have suffered at the hands of fentanyl, and Woke at Crossroads. Just DM me and I will get you squared away. And then we're gonna have all of Wes's social media stuff linked below. Is there anything you want to push, plug? Death Threat got anything coming up?
We're working on some stuff. We got I don't know when this is going to come out, but we got a show in Philly March 23rd. And we got other stuff coming up too. We got we're doing 6 more shows this year, but I don't know what's been announced yet and what hasn't. So I think I gotta not say it yet. But yeah, we're gonna be doing a little bit of traveling. We got some stuff in upstate New York. We're gonna be going out to the Midwest for a festival.
Mm-hmm.
Can't say what it is yet. I don't think they've announced it. And where else are we going? Going down to Baltimore, I believe. And and the Philly show. I think I don't know. I'm probably forgetting something, but I got a list of it in my phone. So
we'll be sure to share all that. Just let me know, and we'll share around all the Death Threat stuff and anything you
for sure. Thanks. On.
Yeah,
but we've been we're working on our set list. We actually started for the first time in a very long time. Started writing some stuff, so we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, man, just plugging along, and we'll see where it takes us. None of us are getting any younger, and we love doing it, but we just gotta kind of pick and choose because we all have responsibilities. Aaron's got a dope pizza spot in upstate New York called Tommy B's, up in Craryville, I think the name of the town is. Mm-hmm. But yeah, if anybody watching is up in that area, go see Aaron at Tommy B's. Makes the best pizza up there. And I'm busy with the shop down here, and I got a family, and it's like we all got responsibilities, but we're still making time for it, which is sick because over 25 years later, we're still doing it.
Is it kind of almost like a form of almost like a vacation for you guys when you guys get together and are able to play?
Dude, that's how I look at it, because it's like not to get into the finances of it, but your expenses are paid for when you go do those things. So if you want to stay a little bit longer, you can, kind of make a vacation out of it. If you want to get in and get out, you can do that too. But, me and Steve Teo, the bass player, we kind of look at it as a vacation, because we've talked about that before. Where it's hard to get away for a weekend just to do your thing, just to relax. But if you can get a Death Threat show knocked out and have fun at a show and play for a half hour and then get a few days out of it where you can explore a new place or just relax, it's awesome.
Well, you did that. What was that festival down south? It was the Fire Fest, right? Or am I thinking of that was that fucked up the Fire Fest?
Yeah, that was that thing in Long Island or something. No, we did FYA Fest.
There you go.
In Orlando. Yeah, that was sick, dude. And I had it lined up. My oldest son is looking at colleges right now. So initially I extended my stay there because he was flying out the day after the show, and I was going to take him to look at some colleges, but some stuff with hockey got in the way. He plays Hampton High. He plays hockey, and some stuff got in the way with that, so he wasn't able to come out. But I still, at that point, it was I bounced back and forth, rebooking shit so many times to because at first he wasn't going, and then he was going, and then he's not going again. I just said, fuck it. I had the room for 5 days. I'm just chilling,
Yeah.
But yeah, and it's kind of at this point we've had talks about we're hopefully 2026 we're on our bucket list shit, man. We've been doing this a long time, and we're gonna try to get out with another band. I don't think I can say who yet, but they're you know, one of the bigger hardcore bands, and
Sick.
we're talking about going out to Japan, New Zealand, Australia with them.
Oh, sick.
Yeah. So, and you know, so like I said, we're on our bucket list shit. We're just trying to see places that we've always wanted to see and knock that out. And I'll say this too, and I don't think I've ever like said this publicly, but the thing I love about playing in this band is that none of us have ever looked at it like a career band. And I know that's what a lot of people strive for, but we didn't, and we don't. And, you know, it's like, you know, in the early days, and like, you know, you get offered these like big tours and open for these people and do this and do that, and, you know, play Warped Tour and, you know, whatever. We never looked at it as like a career band. We did what we wanted to do.
Yeah.
You know, we played with our friends' bands. We played places we wanted to play, and we did what we wanted to do. We never thought about like, oh, what's going to bring us to the next level? Like, what, you know, what kind of album can we write to get more sale? Like, it was never any of that. We did what we wanted to do because it was fun, and because that was, you know, that was what we felt at the time, you know? And I think, you know, a lot of people get lost in that, and it gets super stressful. And that's why a lot of bands break up, is because they're constantly chasing that, you know?
Yeah.
And like I said, dude, it's one thing if that's your goal and you want to be a career musician, then that's great. But it was never that for us. And I think that it says a lot for, you know, where we come from, that's how we always handled our shit, was like, we did what we wanted to do when we felt like doing. If we wanted to take a year off, we took a year off. You know, if we wanted to play 50 shows in a year, we played 50. You know, like we did what we wanted to do with the people we wanted to do it with. And you know, I think that's probably the coolest part, because it wasn't, you know, that was not a me decision. That was us, you know, where we were all kind of had the same mindset on that. And I think it's pretty cool. You know, we did what we wanted to do and got a little bit of success from it. And you know, you don't have to chase that shit, you know?
I think that's what ruins a lot of things, is if you put the money ahead of your passion, then you're already done for.
Yeah.
Like, it's in a lot of, like, I feel like a lot of, once you get into like the corporate level of it, you like, a lot of these situations, like, you're barely an artist anymore because it's dictated by, you know, executives that won't even listen to you.
Yeah.
And I feel like executives focus more on the album covers, like what's a good hook for
what's gonna sell.
Yeah, baseline sales, and like, you know, but never sacrifice your passion or your art for anything. You know.
No, and dude, that's the cool thing, is like, we got, you know, some of those cool moments too along the way, where like, you know, I remember after God and Government came out, going into Revolver magazine to do like a photo shoot, and they gave us all these free clothes, and like, you know, you had some of those perks. I remember walking into Tower Records in Manhattan and seeing a fucking end cap with Death Threat CDs on it, and I was like, holy shit, this is so crazy, you know? So like, you can still get those moments and like, you know, achieve kind of cool shit doing it your way, you know, doing what you want to do, and not, you know, not really sacrificing your values for it, you know?
Yeah, you know, even with doing this, like, you know, if like, I appreciate everybody that's followed me, all the positive feedback I've gotten. Like, it's really about the people I interview. That's what it's about, showcasing like people that, for better or worse, that did, you know, impactful things. But it's just, I'm enjoying the experience, like, more than anything else.
Yeah.
Like, I've met some fucking dope people, you included. Like, I've got, over the last, especially since I started doing this, I never would have thought in a million years I've told you some of the people I've talked to, I never would have thought in a million years I'd be talking to any of these people.
Yeah.
Let alone, like, you know, having the balls to go out there. Like, is it nerve-wracking though? I asked this Levette, is it nerve-wracking to get on stage, like, when you're going out there, or is it just like when you first, like, once you're in it, like, you just feel like at home? Like,
I've been doing it since I was so young. You know, I was playing live since I was 14, you know? So like, I always kind of like, when it got on to like starting to tour and stuff at, you know, 19 all the way up till now, you know, like, it kind of like, I guess I probably eased into it that way by playing all these like smaller shows when I was younger, and even smaller shows like when Death Threat was still, you know, doing stuff. I mean, we play these big festivals now, and, you know, here and there and stuff like that, but we still do like, club shows and whatever. Like we don't care, dude. If we want to play there, we'll play. You know, if it's a 50-person room or a 5,000 people room, if it's something we want to do and our friends' bands are playing, we're there. You know. But yeah, I never had any real anxiety about playing anything. You know, not that I could think of. You know, there was a little bit of weird time. I stopped drinking for a while, and I definitely like felt weird about going up there and playing like stone sober. But I got through it, you know.
It's for the best. Like ultimately, like I think like I mean I used to drink. My drinking got out of control. Now I can casually have a drink, but before I would, dude, I was like on a mission. Anytime I'd like, if you crack a bottle, like I'll kill that thing.
Yeah.
You know, and then wake up and just not like, and just be like, I hope I didn't do anything stupid last night. Like,
yep.
But
we had those days. We were definitely known for partying for quite a while with Death Threat, you know. But you know, we're all. It's funny, you know. Now it's like we all just kind of like go and like we'll hang out together, like go out to dinner, you know, chill at the hotel, like sit at the pool or whatever, and then like go do the show and then get back to what we were doing. It's not like the old days where you're like chasing a party all night, you know.
Right. I mean, you guys have been like. You're like solidified in the hardcore scene, like cemented into its legacy. And I don't give a fuck what anybody says. Connecticut is the hardcore capital of,
I agree.
of the United States. You know, sorry to people in Boston and New York, but we got you beat. Connecticut don't get that recognition, and you know, we like people need to realize who the fuck is on top. Like, but yeah, man, I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. I had a blast.
So, yeah, keep a lookout for the giveaway. Me and you'll talk about it.
Yeah, we'll get it all set up,
and then I'll do like a post about it. But you have to follow me, Roll the Bones on Instagram. I the handle's down below. I don't know it off the top of my head. I probably should know those things, but I don't. And then Burning Hearts Tattoo, and we'll have links to his shop. Go over there, check it out. Like Wes always got stuff going on down there. If you want like quality fucking work, you know, don't get cheap on getting a tattoo. Don't get a tattoo on Temu. Like if the guy's smoking a cigarette at the thing, you know, walk the fuck out and always tip your artist. Importantly, always tip your artist. But yeah, it's been another episode from season 1 of Roll the Bones. We'll be coming at you next week with the Alaskan Avenger, Jason Vukovic. So we're out.